Fallout's popular at the moment, isn't it? It's nice to finally be in a time where film and TV adaptations of video games aren't immediately plop, and it's great to see the games themselves getting a rub too. From the retro charm of the original through to the massively improved Fallout 76, everyone's catching that Wasteland fever. Seriously, this thing won't stop beeping, and this peeling skin is starting to make me worry. Anywho, I think the game I have the fondest memories for is Fallout 3. It was one of the first
Peggy 18
games I got to play, and I felt like a badass getting to roam the Capital Wasteland on the hunt for my dad Liam Neeson. Although he doesn't really have the same mystique after you find out he habitually pees his pants. Poor form, Qui-Gon, poor form. So, with teenage me hooked and more free time than I knew what to do with, I went on a full completionist run. I'd talk to everyone, explore every stretch of the map, and compulsively save so I didn't accidentally make the wrong decision and close off some content. With modern hindsight, it was pretty much the sweet spot between the hardcore role-playing of the first games and the accessible, action-packed gameplay of the more recent outings. Also, 3Dog is the absolute GOAT of radio DJs, it's not even close.
Until next time, this is 3Dog, ow! And you're listening to Galaxy News Radio, bringing you the truth, no matter how bad it hurts.
With that in mind, you can imagine my face when the canonical ending of the base game sees you sacrifice yourself. Fade to black, roll credits, adolescent tears. And the worst thing was, I knew there was DLC out there. There was more to this story that I'd become obsessed with. But this was a time before my family home got Wi-Fi, so how would I get hold of it? Like Nirvana, the Garden of Eden, or affordable housing, this paradise fell out of reach. That was until an unassuming trip to my local video game store saw me come face to face with a bona fide miracle. 2 game cases, one featuring the expansions Operation Anchorage and The Pit, the other Broken Steel and Point Lookout. All I had to do was pop the discs in and I got a bunch of new missions, areas to explore, and New Game Plus, with more levels and perks to aim for. And in an absolute rookie move from both Bethesda and the game store, you could take the discs home, download the DLC, then return them both for a full refund. Honestly, this is how it must have felt to buy Bitcoin back in 2013. So I rinsed all of the new content over the next couple of weeks, all the while knowing there was one piece of DLC I hadn't managed to acquire, and that wouldn't be released on any disc. Look, I'm sure my folks were probably planning on getting Wi-Fi at some point anyway, but I'm also sure that my constant moaning and pining for Mothership Zeta probably sped things up. And with this jump into a wireless future, I was ready to risk a probe in and explore a UFO. Now I'll get to the story, the new items, and everything in a bit, but it's worth pausing now to remind you that Mothership Zeta got a rough deal with critics. While Fallout 3 picked up all the plaudits, and quite rightly so, the general consensus was that this final add-on was a bit of a letdown, not capturing the magic of the base game. But in my humble opinion, not only is this unfair, but I'd go as far to say that Zeta is massively underrated. So before we get into the nitty-gritty on why I think it's still worth playing, what actually happens in Mothership Zeta? Naturally a big spoiler warning, but you're smart, you already knew that. So, while wandering the wasteland, you pick up a garbled radio signal that leads you to a downed alien scout ship. Upon approaching the crash site, you're suddenly transported onto the Biggin. Dun dun dun, Mothership Zeta. Here, you encounter other captives who have been abducted across the ages. Turns out these aliens have been at it long before the world ended, but we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves. Once aboard, you naturally get a little bit of a probing. You lose consciousness and later awaken in a cell alongside another prisoner called Soma. With all their gear confiscated, Soma devises a breakout strategy. You both feign a brawl to draw the alien guards in, then seize the opportunity to overpower their stumpy butts. The plan then leads you to Sally, a young girl taken shortly after the Great War, who begs you to assist in her escape by sabotaging the ship's reactor. Once liberated, Sally offers her knowledge of the ship in return for your help. Guided by Sally, you reach a chamber containing cryotubes and retrieve a spaceship from a frozen astronaut, which you need to reach the teleporter that will take you to other parts of the ship. However, before you can use it, you must first disable 3 generators located at 3 different sections of the ship, creating a diversion. To achieve this, you'll gain the support of 3 fellow abductees: Elliot in the cryolabs, Soma in the robotics factory, and Paulson in the hangar. Having activated the teleporter, the group is transported to the mothership's upper decks, where they're threatened by a demonstration of the ship's thick with 2 C's death ray. You then have to navigate through the weapons lab, the bioexperimentation lab, and the bioresearch area. Reuniting with your companions via a transporter on the observation deck, you continue to the death ray control center and the living quarters. The final standoff takes place on the bridge, where you have to fend off alien forces attempting to reclaim control. Triumphant, you and your fellow abductees celebrate your victory. Amidst the chaos, either Elliot or Sally informs you that during the bridge skirmish, a beacon was accidentally activated, landing near the initial crash site Theta. This beacon provides you with a means to return to the Capital Wasteland or transport back to the now largely inaccessible Mothership. And that's Mothership Zeta in a nutshell. But let's look a little deeper. I think one of the most obvious things in its favour is how it offers a setting and a story that's entirely mad, but still fits in with Fallout's signature vibe. The 1950s were the height of UFO mania, so it's quite surprising that the series hasn't fallen back on the retro-futurism of flying saucers more often. Prior to this, alien life was merely hinted at, with the occasional discovery of the alien blaster in earlier games. But in Fallout 3, you can actually encounter an alien long before setting foot on the mothership. And here's how you do it. Open your map and look north of the MDPL-13 power station, curling around the power station and continuing directly south on its eastern side. Just north of this line, due north of the power station, you'll find a wee little crash site with a wee little dead alien, complete with this powerful alien blaster. Jesus, I made those coordinates and still found that hard to follow, so yeah, good luck. It might be easy to miss and not really play much into the main game, but it more than whets the appetite for extraterrestrial encounters. And naturally, Zeta builds on this lore, and is a great love letter to the alien invasion narratives and high-tech fantasies of the 1950s. It's this brilliant mix of campy, pulp sci-fi elements, including eerie experimental labs and bizarre, otherworldly technology. This thematic dedication not only provides an entertaining diversion, but enhances the game's existing atmosphere by celebrating its vintage influences in a new, vibrant context. The main gripe people have with Zeta is its linear gameplay, particularly compared to the open-endedness of the base game. Up until the original, pre-Broken Steel ending, there's a real emphasis on choices, from the super deep karma system to simply how you approach each problem. I mean, if you leave the vault and head in the right direction, you can find your dad and finish the game in no time at all. I don't know why you would, because it sounds really boring, but it lets you. There's really not a lot of hand-holding, which is perfect for the bulk of the experience. But just because Zeta's different doesn't mean it's worse. The structured, corridor shooting style lends itself more to a narrative-driven experience, focusing on the action and close encounters, get it, rather than open-world exploration. In that sense, it probably has more in common with Fallout 4, which you'll have an opinion about one way or another, I'm sure. Personally, I love New Vegas and Fallout 4 equally, but in this case, I think it's a refreshing one-shot to break up the base game's sometimes meandering quests. And we can't forget the loot, and Zeta gives you some great toys to play with. Obviously, you get some alien tech like the atomic pulverizer and alien spacesuit, but as these interstellar ne'er-do-wells have been collecting things for a long time, you can also nab some of that plunder for yourself, including freaking samurai armor. Finally, I can live out my very intense, very niche fantasy of being Tom Cruise in The Last Samurai. But for real, after playing through all of Fallout 3's DLC, I think the only one that comes close to Zeta in terms of unique items is Operation Anchorage. And speaking of the samurai armor, one of the other real highlights of Zeta is how it allows us to interact with characters and play with influences from different eras of Earth's history. Alongside our friend from feudal Japan to a cowboy from the Old West, this motley crew doesn't just add flavor to the game. They enrich the narrative, offering an insight into cultures and time periods rarely explored in Fallout. And I think this summarizes quite nicely why I think Mothership Zeta is so good, and at the same time, why it doesn't get the love it deserves. It's just so different from what we're used to, both from the game and the series as a whole to this point. I think it's pretty unfair to compare it to something it's not trying to be, and I'm hoping with hindsight, people can rate it based on its own merit. But in my opinion, this DLC isn't just another chapter in the Fallout story. It's a bold, self-contained tale that celebrates and satirizes the sci-fi genre with equal aplomb. For those willing to embrace its quirks and cosmic escapades, Mothership Zeta offers a uniquely thrilling adventure that's both a departure from and a deep dive into the rich, expansive universe of Fallout. But what did you think of Mothership Zeta? Did you play it back in the day, more recently, or are you thinking about checking it out for the first time? Let me know in the comments below, I would love to read your thoughts. And while you're down there, don't forget to like and subscribe for plenty more on all things gaming, check out our movie channel UDS Films, or you can always visit upsidedownshark.com to keep up with everything else we've got going on. Until then, my name is Tom, this has been UDS, and we'll see you next time.